This short module will help you minister, I hope, to someone suffering from a stroke. So, purpose to help you have a basic understanding of what a stroke is, and then how to conduct a short pastoral care visit with someone suffering from a stroke. I love this verse in Matthew chapter 25. Jesus tells the story of a king who said, I was sick and you visited me. And of course, people were surprised. When were you sick, Lord King, and visit you? And the king said, when you've done it to one of the least of these, you've done it to me. And it's the same. We approach everyone on a pastoral visit, whether stroke or not, with this same attitude. We treat them like a king or queen. We treat them with love, dignity, and respect. We listen attentively. All right. What is a stroke? Well, the brain is the control center of our whole body, and the brain is filled with tiny, many of them, tiny blood vessels. And sometimes these small blood vessels can become blocked, either by a small blood clot or because of the buildup of plaque on the inside of the blood vessel. And this blockage can then stop the flow of blood to a certain part of the brain. And when there's no blood flowing through, that part of the brain becomes damaged. Now, different parts of the brain control different parts of the body. And depending on which part of the brain is damaged, the person will immediately lose control of that corresponding part of the body. For example, a person in the morning, feeling fine, goes out for a long run, but then in the midday, that little blood clot lodges in the brain. And, by evening, he may not even be able to stand up and walk. In other words, the effect of a stroke sometimes can be very quick, and it's also very shocking for the person. So, the left half of the brain controls the right half of the body. So, for example, damage in the left half of the brain may result in the person not being able to move his right hand or his right leg. So how to minister to someone suffering from a stroke? Well, because the brain is so complex and the blood clot can be anywhere, there are many different effects of stroke. And sometimes only one hand is affected. Sometimes the whole side, right side or whole left side. Sometimes the person's speech is affected. In other words, each person is different, and the pastoral care worker must carefully ask about the effects of the stroke for each different person. So the general practice of pastoral care is the same for someone who has had a stroke. However, there are 3 extra things I try to remember when ministering to someone who has had a stroke. Number 1, ask carefully. I take care to understand all the effects of the stroke on the person. I ask the patient himself, I ask the family members and other caregivers. Each person is slightly different. If I'm allowed to, I also ask the medical team. So I get a full picture of what that person is going through. I'm trying to understand how that person feels. Now, if the person has recently had the stroke, I remind myself that he could still be suffering from the shock and grief at the sudden loss of his ability to move or to speak. So it's like you've lost something or someone precious. There's grief, there's a grieving process. And I look for these signs of shock or grief. So each time I ask the person, how are you feeling? I try to encourage that person not to lose hope. By doing this, I'm helping that person to recover from the grief and the shock, helping that person to accept his present condition. There was a previous module we had about grieving, the stages of grief. You may want to go back and revisit that. A stroke puts a person into this grieving mode. Sometimes they get angry, they blame themselves, they try to bargain with God and all this kind of thing. But slowly they accept their condition. But in a stroke situation, very often if they keep exercising, they can improve. So physiotherapy is very, very important. So I ask the person's family members permission to help them with simple exercises each time I visit. And I ask them to teach me how I can help in this area. You can even ask the physiotherapist if the person is around, And they're often, because sometimes these things are so as simple as just holding the person's hand, holding the fingers, massaging like that. And it conveys a certain care when you touch them in this gentle, appropriate manner. For example, as I said, they may like me to help move or massage their hand. This is because it is very important that the patient exercises regularly, several times a day. And the physiotherapist, the family members can't be there. So whenever we as pastoral care visitors go, we help in this simple process. So a summary, when you minister to someone suffering from a stroke, we must make the special effort to carefully find out how the stroke has affected him or her, and how he or she is feeling, anticipating that there may be grief and shock. And remember, each person's condition is slightly different, so we take notes to remind us, prepare ourselves each time we visit. We ask the patient and the family permission to help with simple exercises, and we're helping that patient recover from grief and shock. Thank you very much. Yeah. We help the patient accept their present condition, and we encourage that person not to lose hope. Keep exercising regularly. Thank you.